Today we are here with Professor Daniel Jutras from McGill University. He came to São Paulo to take part of our global law program. This is a program where we have courses all in English with guest professors from all over the world. So today, thank you very much for your participation in our program and in this film. So my first question, Professor, what is your course about?
So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to the students here and to learn a bit more about what's going on in Brazil. It's been a great opportunity for me, and I really enjoy the occasions that I've had to talk with your students about the law of class actions from a North American perspective. And the reason why I think this is interesting both for the students and for me is that I'm aware that there's a well-developed regime of class actions in Brazil. So class action is a vehicle through which a representative will defend the rights of a group of people without necessarily obtaining a direct mandate or their consent for the representation of their rights, in order to obtain a judgment or a settlement in the dispute that will be binding on everybody. And so it exists in Brazil in ways that don't really exist in North America, and the North American regime doesn't really have direct correspondence in Brazil. The North American regime focuses on monetary interests and the protection of personal rights. So class actions will be the vehicle for claims in wrongdoing, or law of torts or civil liability, security markets, environment, and things of the like, in which people may have a financial interest to defend. And will bring together all of these people without sometimes even their knowledge or their consent to obtain a judgment against the defendant. Whereas in Brazil, I think the focus is more on collective rights, diffuse rights, and interests that are held collectively by the community and are pursued very often by government agents. The Ministério Público, as I understand, I think is quite active in this area. So the course is an effort to compare the two. The course is an effort for the students to learn about the North American system, and for me to learn a bit more about what's going on in Brazil.
It seems that you know a lot about our system regarding class action. How was your contact with you? How you start having this interest about Brazilian system?
So this is interesting because, in fact, I knew very little about the Brazilian system until I started really preparing for this course. I had read a long time ago that Brazil had a very well-developed, probably the best developed system of class actions in Latin America. Brazil is a civil law system, and I come from a province in Canada that is also based on the civil law. So the connection between the two, I thought, was very interesting. And then the second thing I was very interested about is that, again, as I just mentioned, the Brazilian system seems to enforce collective and diffuse rights. It's used very often for challenges against the government and public agencies, whereas in North America, those challenges are quite rare, actually. And my sense of class actions is that their primary function should be for challenges against the government. So that made the Brazilian system quite interesting. And the reason I was particularly excited to come here to address this is that it's very difficult to find good material in English about class actions in Brazil. There are a few articles in scholarly journals written in English, and I don't read or understand Portuguese. And so this week was amazing in that respect, because the students who are in the class know a lot. There are some students who have been engaged in private practice. They're graduate students, and they're engaged in private practice that involves some class action work. Some students are working with American firms here, so they have an understanding of the two. And there's even a student who used to work for the Ministério Público and who was himself engaged in pursuing class action. So I've learned a lot this week. I would say that I've probably learned as much as the students. Yeah. I hope that I've given the students something, but I know that I took a lot out of the discussion with them.
Well, as you mentioned, you're students. What do you think about the Brazilian students, or you have also foreign students in the class?
So I have a few foreign students. I think a handful are exchange students. There's one from Portugal. There's one from my University, McGill, and I think one from Israel and maybe a few others. The rest are all undergraduate or graduate students from Brazil. I must say I was very pleased, and still am, the class is not finished, with the quality of the students on two levels. It's rare, I've done quite a bit of foreign teaching away from my faculty, and it's rare to find students with a good command of English in many countries. And I'm very surprised and pleasantly surprised to see how good the students are. They don't seem to have any trouble with the readings, and their interventions in class in English are really excellent. But more than that, in the substance, I think your students are unusual, again, in a global sense. I've taught in Europe, and sometimes the students are a bit more reluctant to speak in class, a bit more reluctant to challenge the professor, call ideas into question. They're more reluctant to participate in innovative pedagogy, small group discussions, role playing, and things like that. And I've done all of that with them, and they seem to be very happy with this. They're very engaged with the material, and so it's been a very pleasant experience.
Yeah, I have taught with one of your students, and what I can say is that they are happy too.
Oh, good.
They enjoyed very much your
this.
course.
Wonderful.
So again, Professor, thank you very much for your participation in our program and in this video.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.